Hey everybody, it's The Trout and welcome to another episode of The Trout Show podcast. Thank you so much for stopping by. You know, it's been said if you work hard at your craft and really be diligent about continually to work every day and get better, that sometimes, well many times, you actually become successful. And that's what happened to my guest today, Michael Stephen Ryan, a great musician out of Halifax, Nova Scotia, who spent the last 20 plus years learning how to become a better musician, how to become a better songwriter. Went through a lot of different bands and went through a lot of, well, crappy times with bands. But now, all these years later, he's become a successful musician in Canada, and his band, The Town Heroes, travel in Canada and they tour in Europe. And his music is being more accepted every day. So sit back and enjoy this episode. Get yourself an adult beverage, where we talk to Michael Stephen Ryan from Halifax, Nova Scotia. That's next on The Trout Show. Are you concerned about your financial health? Then why don't you count on an expert that has years of experience of helping people just like you reach their financial possibilities? That's David Smith with Edward Jones at 469-372-1587. David has years of experience of helping people just like you. So reach out to him today, 469-372-1587. David Smith with Edward Jones. What was your first instrument you started on? When you started
guitar.
playing?
I started guitar when I was 12 or 13. The mandatory age for every young boy or girl to pick up an instrument and give it a crack and see what happens.
Right.
And I loved it right away. I had always loved music, and I had a subscription to Columbia House. And
Oh, wow.
Hundreds and hundreds of CDs, and I got a guitar, and I come from a very musical area, but a lot of the music where I grew up in Cape Breton Island, Nova Scotia, is Celtic, like a lot of fiddle music, bagpipes and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So I started playing guitar, but there wasn't a lot of opportunities to take lessons or anything like that. So for me, it was just listening to these albums and trying to figure out where can I place my fingers on the guitar to make the same sounds that they're making on those recordings that I love.
So who was the bands? You know, everybody kind of has their band that kind of gets them started. What were you listening to going, oh, I want to learn how to play their music?
There's a few that were really big for me, and I grew up in the 90s. So some of the bands from that era, Pearl Jam was a really big one for me.
Yeah. We used
Nirvana.
to do, in my last band, we did some Pearl Jam stuff, which is weird music to play. It's different.
Well, one thing I like about them is that they can really throw on a rock show. Like they have songs that are just tons of energy, big solos, just entertaining. But they also have these ballads where they slow it down, and it's kind of the more tender side of them. And that's kind of, I didn't intentionally I got to copy that approach. But as I look back at the songs I've released, it's kind of like that. I have the bangers, as the kids say, and then the more soft, tender ones where you can really showcase, my vocals or whatever it may be.
Wasn't that the
Pearl Jam was a big one?
Well, did you like the grunge stuff out of Seattle? Because that's where
Yeah, well, Pearl Jam was part of that scene for sure.
Yeah.
But I grew up also on classic rock too. So my father was a big fan of like Hendrix and the guys from that era, and CCR was another one of my favorite bands. So I love John Fogerty, and I years later I was working at the Metro Center, which is the arena in Halifax, setting up for concerts, and John Fogerty was coming to town. And in Canada, we get some pretty bad weather up here from time to time.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
And Fogerty and his crew were taking a ferry from Newfoundland, which is a province over. They're taking a ferry from there to Nova Scotia to play the show in Halifax, and they got stuck, and it was delayed. and we had to sit and just wait because they were bringing all their gear with them, the stage, every
On
bit
the
of gear.
ferry, they were bringing them across the ferry.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And so usually
Oh,
we set up the gear and we're long gone before showtime.
right.
But since he got there so late, we had like 3 hours to set up the show, them to sound check and doors to open. So by the time they got there, we're running
I
around
was
like
going to say,
chickens.
people listening to this may think that's a lot of time, but that's not a lot of time to set up.
No,
No,
no.
it's
Set
nothing.
up a full show
Oh
every
yeah.
practice. That's very quick turnaround. And so I'm on stage. I was bringing up some of the back line. I'm plugging things in, getting set up. I'm pouring sweat, and I look up right in front of me, and Fogarty's on the stage right above me, tuning his guitar. And he saw how hard I was working. He's like, "Keep up the good work, kid." And I'm like, "It's just the most amazing thing ever." And then we got to all stand and watch some sound check. And usually, again, we're out of the arena by the time there's
Yeah.
sound.
Yeah.
And Fogarty said he gave a shout out to the crew, the local crew, for working so hard, and that was a pretty special moment.
You learned to play guitar. When did you first get in a group?
Pretty soon after I started my first band, I was still in junior high, so probably I was 15, maybe 14 or 15, and played a variety show at my high school, my local school, and I just video evidence of it.
Oh no.
Watch it every once in a while. And for a band's first performance, we weren't too bad. The thing about us, we were like statues on stage. We were so stationary. Like you can see our fingers moving, but we were so scared to actually have any stage presence. We were just like, I don't know, we were so timid. And that's something you have to learn with time and experience in that. But yeah, that's the first show. As stationary as we were, it was actually incredibly just joyful, and to hear the audience cheer. And we played an original song. We played "Rockin' in a Free World" by Neil Young,
Yeah.
a song we wrote, and some other, maybe it was a Nirvana song or something. But I remember getting off stage and I was just vibrating. Like that was the most fun I've ever
Oh
had.
yeah.
And then that band, we just kept rehearsing, kept learning more songs, kept writing songs, and we started to play at the local bars. So I was 15 and 16 and had to get permission slips signed. My father or one of the parents in the band had to come as a chaperone. We had to go backstage as soon as we were done playing. We weren't allowed out
Yeah.
front.
Can't be
But
sitting
we
around
were
drinking beer. No.
Yeah. And I
That's
remember
funny.
we were played at the local bar in my hometown, and we'd put up posters around the school to get the teachers out. So
Yeah,
we
'cause
were,
the kids couldn't come hear you.
yeah. So yeah, it was, but yeah, it got started early in the bar scene, and just progressively we just improved as musicians, and we were learning from each other. And just there were a lot of bands in my town at that time. Like a lot of people were inspired by the music scene, like the Seattle scene, like you mentioned, and just the camaraderie of playing with your friends and creating something on your own and getting that positive response. So
Yeah.
playing those shows was so monumental and so meaningful that it became my summer job. So I'd finish high school and I would just play these
Oh
shows
wow.
and
That's pretty cool.
make a couple $100 a night.
Yeah.
And then when I finished high school, I went off to university. But when I'd finish my school for the year, I'd come home and we'd all arrive back in our hometown and we'd start playing shows again, and we'd start writing more songs. And then eventually, after my second year in university, we had this summer that was just the best summer ever. We were starting to really understand how to write a song, or so we thought at the time. We were getting great responses. Like girls liked our band.
Oh
We
yeah.
thought we
Oh
thought
yeah.
we were pretty hot stuff, and we were playing great shows. We played this one show at a local arena at the end of the summer, and we finished. We played 3 sets, like 3 hours. We got off stage just soaked, and we had given it our all. And then we started to hear this rumbling in the distance, and we realized that they were chanting our name to come out for an
Oh,
encore. So we all locked eyes and like, let's do it. So we went and played for another half hour. And then that night we decided, okay, we have to leave school and try to see if we can make a
oh
life of
wow.
it. So we,
You got bit. You got bit. When did it click in that you realized this is what I want to do? I know you were talking about it, but was there a point then you said, I think I want to do this the rest of my life. I want to make money doing this, like real money.
yeah, I think it was that summer. It was just a time of creation where we got just all our other friends are working jobs at whatever, mowing lawns or working
Yeah.
at a restaurant, and we just had all day. Like we're sitting on the beach with a guitar, writing songs and playing beach volleyball. And at night we'll go play a gig, and there'll be 200 or 300 people out, and we'll make a couple $1,000 maybe. And it was just this amazing kind of introduction to what that life could be. And it was a 5-piece band, and we were all best friends,
Hmm.
and we were just encouraging each other, and every new song just felt like another reason to
Hmm.
keep pushing this and see how far it could go. And I loved music my whole life, but it's you grow up in a small town, and it's just and when you do well in school, like you just assume that you're going to go to university.
Yeah.
And I went to university, and I did love it there. Like met some great people, great friends, and liked the program I was studying. But it was just this pull in this completely other direction. And my father, he was actually an athlete growing up. He was a
Mm.
basketball player, and he kind of looks back on his life and thinks, and he played high level, played like university, went to the Canada
Hmm.
games and these big moments. But he looks back on his young life and wonders, like, if I worked a little bit harder, could I have made this my
Oh
life?
yeah. Oh yeah.
So he saw in us like the talent that we had and the
Yeah.
drive we had, and he was creating this kind of analogy to his life in sports. And he just wanted us to follow the path that made sense for us and that we were actually really good at, and to not let that go to waste. So my parents were really encouraging of me, even though a lot of parents would not want their kid to drop out of university when they're on the dean's
No.
list and doing good in school. So it was, yeah, it was a big jump. And we moved from our hometown of 1,500 people to Halifax, which is the big city on the east coast of Canada. We had no connections. We didn't know a name of a person who ran a bar or anything in the city. We just knew we had the belief in ourselves, the songs we'd written, and the reps from all the shows and rehearsals
Yeah.
we did. We knew if we just went really hard, worked as hard as we possibly could, that good things would happen. And it was certainly a struggle for a while. Like we went through some pretty thin times where we didn't have too much food in the fridge and not too many opportunities on the horizon. But
You still paid your
there,
dues. Whereas
oh yeah, a lot.
if you'd been in the States, you would have got in a van and traveled all over.
Oh,
You
we did.
know.
No, we did. We traveled to Ontario and
Oh,
back,
you did?
which
Okay. So you did on other
yeah,
parts of Canada. Okay. Yeah.
yeah, but at the start, we when we arrived in Halifax, we were like, "What do we do?" So we just started playing open mics, started
Yeah.
making connections, start on the very bottom, and then we will play an open mic, and maybe the bar's like, "Oh, they're pretty good. Let's give them a Tuesday night or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Give
Middle of the
them
week. Yeah.
$100 for 5 people, and we'll give them 10 beer." I'm like, "That's
Yeah.
the best deal imaginable." So we'd play those type of shows, and
Yeah.
then and we were all our friends were around too. So we would go play a show on a Saturday night, and 400 people would come out.
Oh, that's
So
great.
so the
Yeah.
bars like, these guys are amazing, and
Yeah, because
we
you got
weren't
400 people to show up.
yeah
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
we weren't really very good, to be honest. Like when I look back, like, ugh, we had a lot to learn.
Yeah.
But when you're young and your friends are around, it's easy. They all want to go out. That's all they want to do.
Yeah.
So we'd play bars, and we'd get these big groups of people out, and then the bars would offer us a weekly spot or whatever it may be. So gigs did eventually start to fall in our lap. Then we wanted to record, so we took our best 12 songs, went into the studio with a friend, recorded that, and bought a van, and started going on the
So you
road.
did everything everybody else has done.
Yeah.
The same thing. When was the moment that you realized, okay, we got the break? You go in and record and all that stuff, but something clicked. There's always something that clicks that says, okay, now we're on a different level. Was that let me ask you this too. Did the band stay together? Was it the same members? Did you change? Or when you hit the big time, so to speak, was it the same guys, or you changed a lot of people?
Yeah, when we moved, we were a 5-piece band in our hometown, and 4 of us moved to the city. The drummer who was with us at the time, who's still a good friend now, he stayed behind, and we found another drummer who was from basically 15 minutes away from our hometown, and that kind of became the core group. And we were together for 3 years as that band. And I guess to pinpoint when it all hit, I don't know if it ever really did completely, right? Because those young bands, you're at the very start, you're so connected, and that camaraderie is just unbreakable.
Yeah.
And like we're playing as often as we can. Every night we're not playing, we're having a party at our house. We all live together, so the 5 of us are in this house. That's just a disaster, but we don't care because we're going to be as big as the Beatles in like 2 months. But we were living on that optimism, but we were learning the entire time. We were becoming better musicians.
The more you play, the better you get.
Yeah, we had to get a lot more reps because we're coming from a small town.
Yeah,
there's 1,500 people in our small town. We know everybody there, our parents, our relatives. So we thought we were, like I said, hot stuff. But it's just because our friends and family are out cheering us on, and we moved to the big city, and all of a sudden you realize, geez, there's a lot of amazing bands here, amazing singers, songwriters. That guy's way better on guitar than me. But we lived together. We had all our gear set up in my bedroom where we rehearsed. I had a mattress on the floor, and there's gear everywhere. And we just rehearsed every day for probably 6 hours as a band for
that's a
really long time.
Yeah, it
was just nonstop, just growing and learning, because we needed that. And our first few gigs in the city, we had I told this story on another podcast before, but we played this show, and some guy came up to us afterwards and like, hey, you guys ever hear of a metronome? And he was laughing at it. And I'm like, no, what's a metronome? So, like, again, grew up, no lessons. All of us are self-taught. There's no internet at the time. So,
but the good thing for you, though, at that time, they had digital tuners. I mean,
we were in tune.
I mean, because when I grew up, there was nothing like that.
Yeah.
I was in 5th grade when I started playing in a band, so, and I can only imagine how bad we were. Luckily, there's no video evidence or film of it. And, we would just kind of get close. We didn't know anything about tuning or anything. We knew we had to tune it, but at least that was part, that. You may not be able to keep time, but at least you're in tune.
Yeah, exactly. We were in perfect tune when we were playing off time. So, so we were like, yeah, what's a metronome? And he's like, it's this thing that shows you how to stay on beat. And then we went and bought one the next day and rehearsed to that.
Was it one that you just wind up, or was it electric?
Oh yeah, I still have it somewhere in my studio.
The little
here.
Was it one of those? Exactly. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And it wasn't like that long ago, 20 years ago, I guess. But again, when you're self-taught and you're not learning from other people that just kind of can mentor you, you have to learn these things. So we had a big learning curve to overcome, and eventually just playing these shows, rehearsing nonstop, meeting some other musicians who did then start to give us advice and taught us like how to have better dynamics. Like one thing when we first started playing was just every song was ball to the wall, and they're like, "Oh, just ease up every once in a while." make your choruses louder. Your
Yeah.
verses are allowed to be a little quieter. So it's all these like simple things that by now are just second nature, but we had to kind of come across those, and listening to music was such a big thing as well. Like we'd be on road trips for 20 hours driving, and just each one of us would put our favorite record, play it through, talk about it, then the next one. And it's just so much
Wow.
discussion about music, and you're essentially getting to learn from the greats when you're doing that. Like this is an example of a song that we can use as a reference point for what we can become ourselves.
I admire you for what you've been able to go through to get where you are now.
Yeah,
Because
the process.
it's the process for you was so cool to me. It's just like listening to the story. I mean, here's 1,500 people you move into. I mean, you're not even in a place that's that big itself. 1 million people on the whole island, and everybody's kind of into it, and that makes it even better. So when you were doing stuff like this, and I'm sure as you walk down the street, people go, "Isn't he with the band?" And it's like people all knew who you were, and they didn't look like it. Like he's with the band. He doesn't do anything all day long, except. So the band that I was reading, of course, you've performed with the other band, which is what's the name of the other one? The town in it, the guy.
The Town Here is just my band now. That's
Okay.
that's my livelihood essentially. This other band with a 5-piece was again like 20 years ago. That was kind of my start into the
Sure.
music world, and where I got my feet wet and cut my teeth. But that was a great group of people, and that it did eventually end because 5 guys living in a house together. You
Yeah.
think like we're united for life, and
Yeah.
then all of
No,
a
you're
sudden you
not.
realize, okay, I like this type of food, and this person likes this type of food. Like the smallest thing possible, like not a big deal, but we used to just buy one load of groceries for us when we could afford to buy them. So just all those little things. Like we all have our own personalities,
Well, not only
and
that, you want to have a family. The band you're in now,
yeah.
where is the one that really made it? You started really writing and started making, getting these awards and all that stuff that I read
Yeah.
in your bio. Was that band, or was it just a solo project, or what was it?
Yeah, this is the Town Heroes, what I'm in now, and I guess to tell the full story. So the old band I was in, the 5-piece, best friends, gonna take over the world. We break up, and at the end of that group, I was starting to develop this shoulder issue where my fingers kind of weren't working the way they're supposed to, having pain and from my shoulder down to my arm,
Mm.
and it was getting pretty serious. And by this point, I had to stop playing guitar. I couldn't even pick up a guitar. I couldn't put a strap over my shoulder without
What
a
were you
feeling.
playing? What kind of guitar were you playing?
Just Strat, Fender
Strat,
Strat.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it was just again self-taught, probably playing with bad posture and just playing so much. I basically wore out my arm, and
Yeah.
and I had to stop playing for 2 years.
Well,
And in that time period, I'm like, I want to keep playing music, but the one thing I do is guitar. That's what I identify as. I'm a guitar player. I play lead guitar. I'll play a solo behind my head. I'll do whatever I have to on guitar to make it sound awesome and be entertaining. But that was just 100% taken away from me,
yeah.
and I still had the desire to play music. So I'm like, well, I better learn how to sing. So I just started from then. That was when I started
So you
sitting
weren't
down.
singing in the other band. You were just
No,
playing.
just
You were
guitar
the
player.
lead guitar. Okay, yeah. Okay.
Starting to do some harmonies at the end, but didn't really know what I was doing. But I started learning to play piano and sing, and I just sit at the piano doing scales all day, every day, like sometimes 8 hours a day. I'm just singing scales, and I picked out a few records that my voice, I realized, kind of sounded like was in the same range. And I just sing along to them every day for like 2 years. And then all of a sudden, like I'm like, I can sing pretty decent now. I was doing physiotherapy and rehab for my shoulder for those 2 years as well.
Did they ever tell you what was actually wrong with you?
They just no. I went to like every different specialist imaginable,
Yeah.
rheumatologists, like orthopedic surgeons,
Right.
and they were all just like, "Yeah, I can't really figure this out. Why don't you go to this person?" So it was just getting
Yeah.
passed on,
Yeah.
and I eventually just figured out how to play in a different tuning. So I tuned my guitar to Dadgad. I don't know if you've ever experienced that tuning, played around with it, which is you can play open tuning, open chords. You don't have to bar anything. Like
Yeah.
barring was really hard for
You could
me.
just, it's a one finger thing, basically. Yeah.
You can do it like that,
Bar,
yeah.
you
Or
can bar with your one
chords
finger.
are just easy to make, and I find in that. And I bought the lightest guitar I could find. It was
Yeah.
this Yamaha RGX A2, is what it was called. And I found this strap that goes over both shoulders, so it puts the
Just
weight
spread the weight out.
my right side.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can get back to playing again. So I slowly started playing guitar, and by this point, I can sing now. And I'm like, oh, well, I might as well go to my journals, get some songs out of those that I've been writing and over the last number of years. So I just started writing then as well, and the drummer from the old band I was in still lived with me, so we just started jamming in my bedroom again. Moved the drums, the amps, the PA into my bedroom,
Yeah.
and just started playing as a duo. And so for 8 years or so, we toured as a rock duo, like Black Keys, White Stripes kind of thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, we got to tour to Europe 8 or 9 times. We
Oh,
were
wow.
down the States a couple times for different festivals, crossed all the way across the country in Canada here multiple times. Yeah, I played thousands of gigs with my band, the Town Heroes, and we've eventually expanded to be bigger than a duo. So we have additional members perform with us, but we are a two-member band essentially who hires out sessionals, and yeah, we
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with
got to
that.
see the world.
But
Yeah.
how far did it get you going? I mean, you still doing well, or what's the story on that?
Yeah. We released 4 albums as the duo, as the rock duo, like just two of us on stage. Like a lot of people would say that they'd hear us and like you're just as loud as a 5-piece band. Like you sound
Yeah.
like I'd run through a couple amps, some different pedals, different delays, yeah, and just the songwriting style. Like, okay, we're playing as a duo, so my rhythmic hand has to kind of lock in with the kick drum, the patterns of that. So
Okay.
it was very strategic in these songs that we wrote, and the playing as a duo kind of limited us in what we could create, but it also did craft our sound in that way, because
Sure.
when you lean into your limitations, that's what you become essentially.
Yeah.
That was our thing for a long time. We were the rock duo in Nova Scotia playing around. We were in with festivals in Germany, in Iceland, in the UK, in Austria. Yeah, we got to get to travel around like that. But we eventually, after 4 albums, we didn't want to keep repeating ourselves. We got to a
Mm.
point where like we can only do so many songs where we're hitting loud drums and I'm playing big chords, and
Right.
we just wanted to kind of expand and take our songwriting in a different direction. So we just brought in other members to play with us and created a bigger sound. Some say our sound got smaller when we added the other members just
That's
because our
funny.
style changed a little bit.
Yeah.
But it allows us to just take a song in any direction we want. And we released a single 3 weeks ago now that's
Cool.
getting really good response. And we had a single release party at the biggest rock bar in
Now, what
the
tune
city
was that? What tune is that?
called In Your Head.
When did you start? You started recording at your house, but then you put this thing behind you that I noticed you had a studio thing that people can come
Yeah.
and record. When did you get serious about that? Was that kind of a thing that you wanted to because you had the band? You said, "Hey, if I do it here, we don't have to pay somebody a lot of money to go to the studio."
Yeah, I always loved just the magic behind recording and the
Mm.
mystery behind it. Like the first time I was ever in studio, like I have no idea what's
Oh yeah,
happening. You just see
yeah.
a guy turning knobs and
Plugging
pushing.
stuff in.
Yeah. And then there's all of a sudden the song comes out. Like that is just such a just black art, I guess. Like what is happening there? And
That's funny.
and then I just every time we were in the studio, I was just always really curious and asking lots of questions. And I bought one of those Boss recorders. I think it was a BR 900 CD or something.
Yeah.
And there's two inputs you could record on, and I had a mic, and I just started making demos on that, and just trying to figure out how to use it. And I was all I was doing was music, like I was performing, and I'd work a random job here and there when I had to, but my goal was like no matter what, my music is my life. Like
Yeah.
I'm not going back to university. I'm not gonna get a career job. My life
Yeah.
is music. And
Yeah.
I thought that I love recording as well, so I might as well try to make that a part of it as well. First and foremost for my own band, so I can record us and save some money, like you said,
Yeah.
and just get better at it and really be able to dive into whatever, making a vocal edit or whatever it could be. Like I have all the time in the world. I don't have to be in the studio looking at the walls like, oh, yeah, it's good enough. Let's move on.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. That's it. That's a great line. That's good
oh,
enough. Let's move on.
yeah.
Now that you've gotten where you are now, what's the next steps? I mean, with your band and all this stuff, you got the new single that's come out.
Yeah.
Um, are you working on another project, another EP or an LP, or or are you putting together something for? I mean, you've got two parts. You got yourself, and then you get a band.
Yeah. I got myself, I got my band, and I have my studio in terms of the music I do. And the band is the part. Playing live shows is still where the most money is for sure, and probably my favorite part of things, getting to play in front of an audience.
Mm, yeah.
And we're in Nova Scotia and the east coast of Canada. We've built up a good name for ourselves here, so we're playing festivals, we're getting opportunities to play really good shows, and we're we're always, we just last week we were voted as the best band in Halifax, which again it's not a huge city, but
Yeah,
there's
but hell,
there's
that's pretty
a lot
cool
of
though. Come
music
on.
here,
Yeah, don't sell
a lot
yourself
of
short. Yeah.
yeah, thank you. But we've been playing for a while, but I also feel like, again, when I started off I had a lot to learn. It took 20 years, but I feel like at this point in my career I am like just getting kind of finally in tune with everything.
That's
Like I
funny.
feel like my songwriting is the best it's ever been. My studio work, I've gotten to a point from working on my own stuff, from working on client stuff, that yeah, I know how to mix a song, how to bring it to life, how to make the right parts jump out at you. I know how to do that. Performance wise, I feel like the band that I'm playing with, the sessional musicians we hire, myself and Bruce, that we have a really good band now. Like we can, like I say all the time, like people who don't really follow that music that much, but they'll have some favorite bands who are like the biggest bands in the world,
Hmm.
and they think like, oh, those bands are so much better than a local band playing at a rock club. I'm like, well, if you took my band and whatever, the Foo Fighters, and we went to the same club, we had the same tech, we were sharing backline, like we had all the same opportunities. Like, yeah, maybe they're a little better than this, maybe not. If you put 200 people in the audience who didn't really
Hmm.
know either of us, like some are going to pick us as their favorite band. Like that's just the reality of it. Like I've been playing for a long time. Like I put out a lot of songs. I've been on stage thousands of times,
Yeah.
and like it comes down to personal preference at the end. Like of course there are bands out there who are better than everyone.
Well, I
Like
think the
there's
difference is this, and I could tell you real quick. We talk about the Foo Fighters. So if you break down any famous band that's still performing, the Rolling Stones, anybody that's U2, whatever, they're still a band. There's
yeah.
still four guys or five guys or three guys, and they're still doing the same thing you're doing. The only difference is, and they're all talented because they've been playing for 30, 40 years, in your case, 20, 30 years. People know their music.
Yeah.
That's the big difference. If McCartney's still touring, he's 80 years old. What does he need to tour? But I mean, as soon as he hits a chord, everybody knows what it is. That's the difference. Yeah. Quality musician is probably, I think that's probably, you are 100% right. You could be just as good, but they don't know your songs.
Yeah.
And I think that's the big difference. I think about that occasion when I'm listening to somebody, especially when people take in their phones, their cell phones, and famous, it's not coming off the board, and they just stick their phone out there, and you listen to it going, what, just a band with amplifiers and stuff?
Yeah, we're doing the same thing. That's what I'm trying to say to these people who might not support like the smaller acts trying to climb up the ranks. Like, yeah, I'm doing the same thing that the Beatles did. Like, yes, they're the best who've ever done it.
Right. Yeah.
But, like, at the end of the day, a couple of guitars, bass, drums, vocals.
It's all the same.
Yeah, like, just a big thing is to create a better scene, is supporting the people on the rise.
Dodging demons, cannons, and the knives. You can see, you think it's real, cause you feel it in your insides. Who will question human anatomy? Step back and take a little look at what you think is going on in your reality. Step back and take a little look at what you think is going wrong. There's a lesson that you learn when you are young. Don't believe in every little thing that you see. Should have told you it's the same in your own head. If you believe it's probably gonna be the way you feel. Step back and take a little look at what you think is going on in your reality. Step back and take a little look at what you think is going wrong. Maybe
Well, that's it for this episode of the Trout Show podcast. Thank you so much for stopping by. A very, very special thank you to Michael, Stephen, Ryan from the Town Heroes, all the way up there in Nova Scotia. If you want to know more about their band and about him, you can visit their website, thetownheroes.com, thetownheroes.com. And once again, thanks to David Smith for continually supporting our show with Edward Jones. And for more information about The Trout Show, all you got to do is go to thetroutshow.com. You can find out about all the YouTubes, all the podcasts, and music and everything else. So, as I always say, people, remember, it's only rock and roll, but I love it. See ya!